This video is sponsored by Card Kingdom. You can find all the cards in this video in their store by using the links in the description below. Hi everyone, I'm Nitsahone, and it's time for another MTG Top 10, the series where I rank cards based on their historical performance at Magic's highest level of competition. Today, we're going to take a look at non-red burn spells. Burn refers to an effect that does direct damage to the opponent. Red is, of course, the undisputed king of doing direct damage in Magic, to the point that there have been red burn decks in every single format at one point or another. However, red isn't the only color that gets access to effects that allow you to do direct damage to your opponent, and I thought it would be interesting to take a look at non-red burn spells to shine a spotlight on these kinds of cards. To be eligible for this list, a card had to have a non-red identity, be an instant or a sorcery, and it had to be able to do damage to an opponent or make them lose life. When I say non-red identity, this means that any card with red in its casting cost or anywhere in the text box wasn't allowed, so cards like Lightning Helix and Bump in the Night weren't considered for this list. After all, those cards are still red, so it's a lot less interesting that they can lower an opposing player's life total. In all, there were 137 cards eligible for this video, and in it we'll look at the 10 that have left the biggest impact on competitive Magic. Before we get started, here's a quick reminder on how I score cards in these videos. A first-tier top 8 is worth 2 points, this includes events like Pro Tours, and a second-tier top 8 is worth 1 point, this includes events like Regional Championships. Alright, let's take a look at the top 10 non-red burn spells in Magic. At number 10, it's Rancid Earth. For 1 generic and 2 black, it's a sorcery that destroys a land. It also comes with Threshold, which means that if you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you get a bonus effect. In this case, it does 1 damage to each creature and each player. Black is the second best burn color in Magic, and we're going to see that it is, by far, the best represented color on this list. Anyway, 3 mana to destroy a land is a nice rate, so also doing some direct damage and killing a bunch of X1s on top of that is really good. It saw significant play in Odyssey Block Constructed, a format where it was easy to get Threshold online, and also a format where Cabal Coffers was heavily played, so making sure you could deal with that opposing land was really important. It saw more limited play in Standard where it was a sideboard card, and it hasn't gained any points since 2003. At number 9, it's Hurricane. It was originally printed in Alpha, Magic's very first set, and a set with lots of non-red burn in it, since they were still feeling out the color pie at the time. Hurricane costs X and a green, and it's a sorcery that deals X damage to each creature with flying and each player. Green is, of course, great at hating on flyers, but it doesn't receive a whole lot of cards that let you damage players too, but Hurricane does it, and it does it in a big way. This made it not only a good way to deal with problem flyers, but it could be a finisher in green aggro decks that mostly kept their creatures on the ground anyway. It gained all of its points in Standard, although through 3 separate Standard formats. Right now it's unlikely it gains any more points, but it might still be powerful enough that if it got another Standard legal reprint, it might see a little bit of play. At number 8, it's Psionic Blast, another non-red burn spell from Alpha. For 2 generic and a blue, it's an instant that deals 4 damage to any target and 2 damage to you. Blue having a spell that directly damages a player is a fairly rare occurrence, and it's even rarer when that spell can also damage creatures, and it has a downside that damages you. But Psionic Blast does all of those things, and pretty efficiently too. It saw a lot of play in Magic's early days, even appearing in 2 of the top 8 decks at Magic's very first competitive tournament, the 1994 World Championship. It went quiet after that for a while, but it got a reprint 13 years later in Time Spiral's time-shifted bonus sheet, and that reprint led to it seeing play in Time Spiral Block Constructed and Standard. One interesting thing about Psionic Blast is that they eventually printed a color-shifted version in Ravnica, called Char. It makes way more sense for Psionic Blast to be red, so it's understandable that they eventually printed a more color pie appropriate version. At number 7, it's Geth's Verdict. For 2 black mana, it makes your opponent sacrifice a creature and lose 1 life. In other words, it's an edict effect with a tiny bit of burn attached to it. Life loss coupled with removal can be pretty sweet, because you can use this to get a blocker out of the way and then swing in the same turn, and your opponent's going to find themselves taking that 1 extra damage, and it's going to matter a heck of a lot more if you're also attacking them. It saw play in Standard, and these days it also sees play in Pauper, a format where only commons are legal. At number 6, it's Drain Life. The third alpha card we've seen so far. It costs X, 1 generic, and a black. You can only spend black mana on X, and it does X damage to any target while you gain that much life. Although you can't gain more life than toughness or loyalty of a permanent you damage. In Mirage Block Constructed, it was the win condition in a deck that could produce a ton of mana using Cadaverous Bloom and Squandered Resources. In Standard, it was utilized in Necropotence decks, so that those decks would never run out of life and could just keep on drawing more cards with the powerful enchantment. Drain Life's best days are definitely behind it. Doesn't have any points since 1997, but it was a key card in the Magic scene of the mid-1990s. At number 5, it's Profane Command. For X and 2 black, Profane Command, like all commands, gives you 4 options and you can choose 2 of them. The first option, target player loses X life, is what qualifies it for this list. It can also reanimate a creature with mana value X or less from your graveyard, give target creature -X, or give up to X target creature's fear until end of turn. As usual, having options is a very good thing in Magic. Profane Command can finish off an opponent if that's what you need it to do, especially if you have a few creatures in play, as making an opponent lose X life and making your whole board unblockable is likely to end a lot of games if you're ahead. If you aren't in a spot to do that though, you can remove an opposing creature and reanimate something, a combination of effects that goes a long way towards allowing you to stabilize. Obviously you can mix and match the effects any number of other ways too. It saw heavy play in Standard while it was legal there, and it's also found some success in Block and Extended, but it doesn't have any points since 2009. At number 4, it's Witherbloom Command, our second consecutive command. This one costs a black and a green for a sorcery, and it qualifies for this list as a result of its last option, which makes an opponent lose 2 life and you gain 2 life. The other 3 modes can allow you to mill 3 cards and return a land from your graveyard to your hand, destroy a non-creature non-land permanent with mana value 2 or less, or give a creature -3/-1 until end of turn. In the right situation, this 2-mana spell can deliver some pretty insane value, including easy 2-for-1s, like by destroying a permanent and killing a creature with 1 toughness, or by getting a land and choosing one of those options. Then of course, you can also drain 2 life from your opponent. While that mode doesn't really give you a card like the others, the card's other 3 modes are highly situational, and that one isn't. It's always going to do something, and draining a couple of life can help you finish off a game, or greatly improve your chances of winning a race. In terms of where this command has seen play, it's kind of the opposite of Profane Command. It didn't gain a single point while it was in Standard, but it's seen play in pretty much every other 60-card format, and generally in graveyard decks that can get the most mileage out of the mill effect. It's gained most of its points in Pioneer Greasefang Parhelion decks, which look to stick powerful vehicles in the graveyard to get back with Greasefang, and the command can help you set that up while giving you some additional value. It's also seen play in Modern the Rock, Legacy Bug Midrange, and Vintage 4-color Fish. It's going to keep gaining points in all of those formats, and it has a pretty good shot at moving up on this list, although right now it's pretty far behind the number 3 card, which is Vapor Snag. For 1 blue mana, it's an instant that returns a creature to its owner's hand, and it makes that creature's controller lose 1 life. 1 mana is already a really good deal for the main effect of this card, so the fact it throws in an extra 1 damage is pretty great. Vapor Snag is super efficient for what it does, resulting in it having seen play in lots of formats, and generally in decks that are really interested in playing cheap spells to fill the graveyard, get back Arclight, Phoenix, and trigger prowess. When you have a board filled with creatures like Monastery Swiftspear, Vapor Snag bouncing your opponent's blocker out of the way results in a very big turn. It's seeing play right now in both Modern and Pauper, but the 2 cards in front of it have a pretty sizable lead, and they're also actively being played right now, so Vapor Snag can probably never do better than the number 3 spot on this list. At number 2, it's Tendrils of Agony. For 2 generic and 2 black, this sorcery makes target player lose 2 life and you gain 2 life, and it comes with one of the strongest mechanics in the game, Storm, which means when you cast it, you get an additional copy of it for each other spell that has been cast that turn. So if the storm count is at 9, Tendrils can take an opponent out in a single turn. That's pretty doable in Legacy and Vintage too, and has resulted in it being one of the primary win conditions in Storm decks in those formats. They tend to cast a lot of rituals and card draw effects until they reach the right storm count, at which point they can kill you with a lethal Tendrils. While Tendrils is seeing regular play, that's also true of the number 1 card, and it's being played even more than this powerful storm spell is, so I don't see Tendrils of Agony ever passing it. That number 1 card is Collective Brutality, the third modal non-red burn spell on the list. For one generic and a black, this sorcery has 3 choices. The one that gets it on this list is the last one, which drains 2 life from your opponent. The other 2 modes allow you to make your opponent discard an instant or sorcery, or give a creature -2/-2 until end of turn. But it also comes with Escalate, which means you can choose an additional mode for each card you discard when you cast it. So if you cast this and discard 2 cards, you get all 3 modes, which can be pretty awesome. This is especially true if you're playing a deck that wants to put those cards in the graveyard anyway, because in that case you're not really paying an extra cost. You're getting extra effects out of a very powerful card, while also setting your deck up to do exactly what you want to do. When you can do that, the card feels truly absurd. For example, in Pioneer, it's been used to set up the Parhelion combo I talked about earlier, and in Legacy, it's often used to put Atraxa or Gristlebrand into the graveyard so you can reanimate them. Collective Brutality has a nice lead, and it's seeing more play than Tendrils of Agony, so I think it's going to be number 1 on this list for the foreseeable future. So, those are the top 10 non-red burn spells in Magic. If you're interested in doing direct damage to your opponent when you're not playing red, check out the description where you can find a direct Card Kingdom link for each card that appeared in the video. If you want to make sure you catch future videos, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. If you want to catch up on past videos, there should be a playlist on your screen shortly. And if you want to go the extra mile in supporting me and the channel, you can do that by becoming a channel member or a patron. You can find ways to do those things in the description. Thanks for watching.